thrive.
You're watching Worldview Tube, a Brannon House television network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey everybody, good morning. I am Tamara, and this is the Tamara Scott Show. We help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. Talk about anything and everything on this show. My husband laughs and says, sometimes your show's not easy to watch because we tackle the tough topics long before most others are willing to do so. We've proven that over the years and over the decades. So we do. We talk about the tough topics because you have to know the problem to be able to face it and find a solution. Unlike, politics, where they find the solution they want and make a problem to make it fit. No, we help you find the solution to those issues that you find yourself facing. And here's why. If God expects you to live through it, He's directed you how to do it somewhere in His Word. And so our goal is to help you find those solutions without becoming fearful, without becoming panicked, without becoming vulnerable, because then you're malleable and they can control you. So we do what we can to give you the resources so you can weigh it out, pray it out, be prepared, and be prepared, P-R-A-Y-E-D, and have your plan ready. God has a plan and a purpose, and it doesn't change because of the headlines or because of what somebody else may thrust upon you, whether it was a COVID-like pandemic, scandemic, or whether it was something else that the headlines showed us. God has a plan for us, and we need to move forward with that plan without the distractions of simple headlines. But we also need to know how to pray and how to be active in our community. God blesses our efforts. And yes, He could do anything He wished without our help, but He sometimes calls us to the task. So if He's placed you here at this moment in time, He's got a role for you to do. And protecting our liberties right now in America has never been more important. Yes, we have a friend in the White House, but we still have a lot of folks coming at us at a lot of different levels with a lot of different ideas. And they're not always in our best interest. So you better be prepared to stand up. And let me ask you this. If you went to a fast food restaurant and you ordered your whatever meal, combo, and you ordered your French fries, and when it came, you didn't get your French fries, did you go up and ask for your French fries? Of course you would. You paid for them. It was in the deal. You expect them. You would go up and ask. And so let me ask you this. How many of you are willing to go and protect your liberties, the rights that are endowed by your Creator, when city councils, county commissions, county boards, states, whoever it is, may be doing things that infringe upon those rights, that take those rights away, eminent domain for private gain? We're dealing with that in Iowa. These data centers that are coming in are taking up vast land, maybe causing you harm, maybe causing you EMFs and noise pollution that have health issues with them. Maybe it's your resources. Water supplies may be drained. That's in your Constitution, that it's secured, that it comes from the rights endowed by your Creator. Don't let somebody take them from you. And so if you're not willing to stand up for those, but you'll go get your French fries, do you not care about your freedom as much as you care about your French fries? Stand up, my friends. Know your rights and protect them, not just for you, for your family, for their future, and for those who will follow us, just like our founders did. All right. I didn't have any of that written down. I didn't know I was going to say any of that, but I want to welcome our guest. I'm excited to have Nick Owens. He is an attorney in Southwest Ohio. He lives in the rural Brown County, an hour east of Cincinnati in Georgetown, which is the boyhood home of Ulysses S. Grant. And Nick has a business degree. He has a law degree. And before he was a licensed attorney, he worked for his local member of Congress for 5 years, including working 2.5 years on Capitol Hill. That's no easy feat. And what an experience and education that would have been as well. He's now he was an assistant prosecutor for 7 years, where he prosecuted thousands of cases from traffic tickets to murder. Since 2020, he has been in private practice where he successfully won 2 federal civil rights First Amendment cases and an Ohio Supreme Court public records case. He is a champion of people, of justice, of the Constitution. He's also a former elected member of the State Board of Education in Ohio, a former county Republican party chairman. Lastly, he was an FBI informant and testified in federal court as a prosecution witness in Ohio's largest public corruption scandal in its history. You can tell a lot of interest here. We could do a lot of different shows with him. He's a co-drafter of the proposed Citizen Ohio Constitutional Amendment, an initiative petition to ban large-scale data centers over 25 megawatts, and he's a leader in its affiliated group, Conserve Ohio. You can find Conserve Ohio online. Nick Owens, thank you for joining me on the Tamara Scott Show today.
Thank you for having me.
So appreciate the work you're doing on behalf of freedom, on behalf of your fellow Ohio citizens. So where would you like to start in explaining to our viewers this battle? We've talked to them about data centers. We've talked to them about a lot of the health and a lot of the other issues. That the land use is my concern, taking up viable production, food crop, food land, farmland production, the cost, the energy drain, the water drain. Where would you like to begin?
Well, first and foremost, I feel like in Ohio and all throughout the nation, our way of life, particularly our rural way of life, is under attack. And one of the things that wasn't mentioned is actually I was an alternative delegate for Donald Trump at the RNC convention in 2024 in Milwaukee. And what an amazing time to see Donald Trump live in the flesh right after his near assassination attempt. So I say all that is I'm a Republican to the core. But with that being said, you know, there's a lot of Republicans pushing this and Democrats pushing these data centers all across the country. And this is a bipartisan, nonpartisan issue where we, frankly, in the rural areas and city areas all throughout our state and our nation, just want to be treated properly, respectfully, and don't want to be abused. And from how it all started for me here in Brown County, again, an hour east of Cincinnati, is that we have this mega site, about a 1,200 acre parcel that's been promoted by the local economic development groups for about 20 years, including regional, state, and then the county economic development. And they could never get any takers. And the idea was that maybe one day we would build the next F-150 or something that we would be proud that comes from Brown County, that employs hundreds of people or even thousands of people, maybe even something that we would promote throughout the world or produce throughout the world. Well, ultimately, the site's never sold. In late 2024, it did, to a mysterious LLC that bought 1,200 acres at really 3 or 4 times the land value. And a lot of people started asking questions, going to council meetings. Now, in the background, the data center, has been exploding all over the place. So people had an idea that it could very well be a data center, but they'd show up to council meetings and ask, what's going on? Well, we don't know anything, or we can't say anything. We're under non-disclosure agreements, which just enrages people. You don't want to be told by your elected officials that they can't talk about the people's business.
Right. Can I ask you a question right there?
Yeah.
I know you're an attorney and you've done a lot of work, and I don't know if the constitutional, there are constitutional attorneys, there are specialists in the Constitution, maybe unfair. But to me, it seems like when someone elects you to represent their interests, that you take an oath to the Constitution, and while you don't take an oath to the people, it's assumed that you're taking the oath to the Constitution to somewhat protect the people you represent. At least you should be accountable to the people you represent. So for me, is it even constitutional for these elected officials to sign NDAs and use them as an excuse not to be transparent with the very people who elected them?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I don't like to throw around things that are just unconstitutional because they sound horrible or they sound antithetical to normal and good government. I'll say this, I think it's a direct violation of somebody's oath to frankly be bound by a private contract between whether it's a small business or in this case, oligarchs in the big tech world. And it's just disgusting. I'll say with one caveat on that, there's a lot of our rights and rural. A lot of people get pushback to the ACL, particularly conservatives like myself, give pushback to the ACL type lawyers and things. But frankly, we need ACLU type lawyers on both sides of the political spectrum and in the middle, because a lot of times our constitutional rights and our statutory rights in our local, state, and federal areas, frankly, those rights don't get enshrined into law until they're tested at the court level. And, a lot of these times, that's the thing is in Ohio, people say, well, isn't it just unconstitutional or violates the Public Records Act in Ohio to not be able to, or to be able to enter into these non-disclosure agreements? And frankly, it's just, you got to find the right vehicle and the right test case. And let's be honest, a lot of times the government protects the government. It's government lawyers protecting the government, and it's a government paid judge. So you also have to make sure you bring the right case at the right time. So we kept showing up. So I started paying attention to the community just about 15 minutes north of me in our rural area. And people would show up and say, well, we can't tell you anything. We're under a non-disclosure agreement. Well, then we did just tons of public records requests from all kinds of people. And thankfully in Ohio, our Public Records Act is pretty strong, could be stronger. And we kept getting answers. We got purchase and sales contracts. Hidden in the purchase and sales contract was the intended use of data center, and that they had signed that contract over a year before we started asking questions. There was zoning that we found that was completely overhauled by emergency legislation, 192 pages, complete zoning overhaul, buried in the middle of it, permitted use as a data center. There was emails where they had conversations about these things. We even asked the mayor, what's going on? The village council members, what's going on? The mayor had direct emails with the developers under a Shell LLC number, Project Canvas, and where they were talking to each other. And at one point, somebody said, Mayor, why have you been lying to us? And his response is, I don't know. And so people are just disgusted by the secrecy, and that's notwithstanding all the harmful effects of what a data center could bring. And I want to make this point is a lot of our first generation data centers in Ohio, and I'm sure in Iowa and other places, were created about 10 years ago or 8 years ago. And that's probably about the normal size of a Walmart sized building or a large distribution center. But what this proposed amendment in the state of Ohio is trying to ban is the hyperscale data centers, the ones over 25 megawatts. Megawatts is the most common measurement to measure data centers. But people need to know there's a real difference between your normal data center. Everybody likes to say, oh, well, you like using your phone, you like watching Netflix, you like checking your email. Well, we've been doing that for the last 15 years, and we didn't need hyperscale data centers. These hyperscale data centers, in my opinion, are frankly the explosion of AI and more of the surveillance state. I have real Fourth Amendment, talking about constitutional concerns. I have real Fourth Amendment because everything we do now is protected, is captured by some private entity, and that private entity just voluntarily gives it over to the federal government. And as we've seen over the years, especially during the Biden years against Donald Trump, but it happens in all administrations. It happens in the Trump administration that the government goes to these big organizations, big corporations, and they just hand over the information. And so when people think of a normal sized data center, think of a Walmart building or a Target or whatever. But now these hyperscale ones, think 1,000 acres and 15 or 16 buildings that size, and also enough power that would power a million homes or a large city. And it's just crazy. So unfortunately, a lot of our data out there is data based on data centers that are of this smaller scale or traditional size. We just don't have a lot of the data about the hyperscale ones. And what we do, it's very scary. It's scary about how much emissions they provide, how much water usage they use, the strain they put on our electric grid, the forever deletion of prime, pristine farmland. And for what? For what? At most 50 jobs. People are willing for economic progress to lose whatever natural thing we might have, or things that we lose forever because of another benefit. That's just the nature of the conversation and progress in any evolving society. But these don't create jobs. In Ohio, and I'm sure in Iowa, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, even now, we're promised to be the Silicon Valley of the Midwest, to be the tech hub of the Midwest. Unfortunately, all we've gotten is becoming a tech dump.
Right. All right. Hold it right there. We've got to go to our first break. Nick Owens is my guest. He is an attorney in Ohio. You heard his resume earlier in the program. Impressive background, vast experience in helping now the citizens with a potential ban on the large megawatt data centers being added as an amendment to their state constitution. I think this is the first state action we've seen on this. We've seen other cities take action. Monterey, California, just not too long ago, voted no in their city, and they said they were the first, but I think there have been other cities as well. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Nick Owens talking about data centers and your community, your constitution, and your health. Stay tuned.
I need to tell you about our Bella Grace. The slender little sachet has the elixir with the collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's claw. In 2022, got an award for helping with cognitive function, and in 2023, in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. But the best is what we hear from so many of you. You have noticed better joint health, improved mobility, less eye strain and fatigue, helping with computer vision syndrome, visual acuity, depth perception, alleviating dry eyes, but also helping with your immunity, your stress management, endurance, less fatigue overall, not just eye fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. Then there's the fun list. The firmer, smoother skin texture, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spots, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduced oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, hair health, better sleep. Who wouldn't want any of those? Call them beauty items if you wish, but who doesn't want to feel a little bit better or more confident when you're going to present in the public square, when you're going to speak at a city council? And who just doesn't want to feel a little healthier? Maybe they're just byproducts of being healthier. More information at tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, tamara.bellagraceglobal.com.
All right. As I tell you, some of our best conversations are during the breaks, and sometimes the breaks aren't just long enough for me to get all the information I'm asking. As you know, if you know me, I'm asking Nick about constitutional issues on the Fourth Amendment. He brought up the surveillance. I think that's a concern of many people. Young people are saying no to these data centers. We thought the generations to follow were all about their screens, all about their social media, but a lot of them are saying no to it for whatever reason. And they're certainly saying no to the data centers, which is was a surprise to me. And I was reading earlier this morning about 4 o'clock, and I wish I could store everything by category. I know you can by AI, but I don't use AI a lot of times. But it was talking about the, now I've lost my train of thought. It was talking about some of well, I'm gonna have to come back to it. I am, sorry. But on this issue, there's just so many underlying issues that are problems with it. It's not just one or the other. There are so many other, it's like peeling back the onion, as they say. There's just a variety of issues on this. Okay, so Nick, you said 1 million homes. These new data centers could power 1 million homes. We're hearing about, is it the O'Leary? I can't think of his name.
Kevin O'Leary in Utah.
Yeah, and so his is so huge that it would be the size of Manhattan.
Right. And in Ohio, not to propose site near me, but we have actually a federal government land that's in Piketon in Pike County. And it would be the largest data center in the world if it was built. Now, it seems like every other day you hear about it being the next data center developed would be the largest in whatever circumstance. But no, it's crazy. The one in Ohio, that would be, it was announced they had 3 cabinet secretaries, Doug Burgum, the Department of Energy, Chris Wright, and one other cabinet secretaries, not Ohio cabinet, federal cabinet secretaries come to Ohio for the groundbreaking, and they would be powered by 10 gigawatts of natural gas generation with, turbines and all that. Think of the emissions. It's so crazy. I like to say in Ohio, at least Ohio is probably nationally, that Republicans right now, which I am one, are controlled by big tech. The Democrats are controlled by unions, and they're both controlled by utilities, large utilities, and they're all making money off these deals. And it's just crazy. I mean, as it speaks to Democrats, they were so concerned about green energy and saving our planet, which I care about our planet. I want to save our natural resources, but all of a sudden they're all looking the different way as we have to use all these fossil fuels to power the data centers. And it's unfathomable, frankly. And one of the things about the 1 to 2 million homes, the one in South Central Ohio, would use as much power as almost the whole state of Ohio on a 24/7 period. And that's just one site. Now you add the one that's proposed near me, 15 minutes away from me, and it's actually 1 to 2 million homes. It depends the time of the year because of the hotter, and the more energy use. But think of 1 to 2 million homes worth of power, and then that's notwithstanding the water, that's notwithstanding the destruction of the farmland and the pollution. And as you were speaking about young people, I've collected over 1,000 signatures for our petition, our statewide petition so far. And one of the common themes is 20 to 30-year-olds sprint to us. And I've joked with you, they actually have some choice words about the data centers. And it's just not 20 to 30-year-olds, liberal arts majors, they're and hippies and flower childs of the 20. It's not. It's conservative, rural, big truck driving 20 to 30-year-olds to Prius driving 20 to 30-year-olds. The demographic of young people, this is anecdotal, but from what I can see, I would say 80 to 90% of young people, 20 to 30, just are worried about them, scared, and don't want anything to do with them.
Absolutely right. And so I don't like to do things that give Democrats a chance to look reasonable. Right? I hate it when we set them up to look like the reasonable ones. So Senator Bernie Sanders and AOC supposedly have called for a moratorium on these nationally. That's frightening that they might actually be on something positive here. But in an article or a post on data centers by Reality Check, they said that Senator Bernie Sanders has taken to social media to drop a set of overwhelming statistics that expose a profound disconnect between the American public and tech elite running Capitol Hill. Featuring a background visual targeting OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, Sanders highlighted 3 undeniable metrics, and this just kind of fits where you're at. 70% of Americans feel that development of artificial intelligence is moving far too fast. 77% of citizens are fully convinced that the entire legacy job industries will be completely eliminated by automation. And these are kids who still have student loans.
Right.
And now job insecurity.
Trying to build a house or buy a house that they can't afford.
It's not enough to compete against people. Yeah. Now you're competing against machines. And then the staggering 97% of the population demands that AI safety and deployment be made subject to strict federal regulations. I don't know if I care about federal. I like local control. And sometimes I don't like what federal does, but I see where they're going with that. So when nearly 100% of the superpowers population demands oversight, the refusal of legislative bodies to enact hard boundaries isn't a failure of capability. It's an act of political submission to corporate capital. And I would tell you, it might be political suicide, because we're seeing in other articles that I've come across, this is changing the political landscape. There's one on Ohio, and I don't want to get you off track. I want to come back to what you want to talk about. But the 2 moms, I mean, I know Jessica Baker, who's starting this petition with you, but then the 2 moms, was it Washington Post that put their names out?
Yeah, Washington Post.
That's a pretty established and respected paper, really.
Yeah, we've had articles in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. No, it's the most. I've been involved in politics on a pretty micro and macro level for 20 years, involved whether employed or engaged, running for office, being a party leader, and I've never seen an issue as tone deaf by elected leaders and dividing communities. Frankly, it's dividing a lot of communities in our community. People think they're going to get rich off of it, whether or not they do, and so they support it against the will of their people. And I see it this way: is everybody wants to talk about the construction jobs and the boom, and that we have this frankly short-term employment. They all like to say it's long-term employment, but it's not. But I use this example: these same people would be upset if police officers and corrections officers lost their job because crime went significantly down. We have to live amongst ourselves. We can't let one class of citizens or a trillionaire corporation hog all the wealth and prosperity to themselves while everybody else suffers. And we're our friends and neighbors. We shop at the same grocery store. We have to feed our families. We have to send our kids to school. And we have to have a society that works for all, not an elite few. And I'm a Republican saying this. I feel like our way of life is under attack. And what you'll see in a lot of the national publications, and I see it in my public opinion baths getting signatures, is many people are one issue voters right now. They're already disgusted. I love Donald Trump as much as most Republicans, but they're concerned about the war. They're concerned about a stranglehold on Republican politics where there's no alternative voices. And there's a real fear. And when gas is at $4 a gallon or $5 a gallon and grocery prices haven't went down, and people see that their livelihoods are at stake and their way of life is at stake, people are either not going to show up to vote or they're going to sit on the sidelines and not vote for the people that they usually vote for.
It is a concern. And as a Republican, I have learned that Donald Trump has outflanked me before, right? Usually he's got something else. I wouldn't go about it that way, and yet he does, and he's trapped someone in and or exposed someone. So I'm hoping and trusting that the war in Iran, I hope it is not called off. I don't want to see a ceasefire. I want to see an end to the threat. That's what I want to see in Iran.
Agreed.
And so I'm hopeful he stays the course until we get it completed there. On the gas, I totally people I don't know if it's political tone deaf, but these data centers are going to make a difference in this election. The threat of property being taken, the threat of your forever home, the home you bought. People forget that it may just be a piece of property to a politician who may own several, but to the couple who lives in it, they've saved their livelihood to live there. That's what they've built over time to raise their family. And to have the hum, and we've got a video, we can play the hum of one of these centers across the street now, or I think it's so many miles away. Not peaceable. We've got the health impacts that are coming back that are talking about anxiety, stress levels, even heart issues, frontal lobe development, nervous systems in kids not developing as they should. I wish I could find, those are the things I wish I could find so quickly. We've got to go to break again. Is there any way you could stay for another?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
of course.
Very good. We'll be right back. Nick Owens is my guest. He's out of Ohio, an attorney working on the citizen petition to add a ban of large 25-megawatt data centers in their state constitution, the first of its kind. We'll be right back.
Two years ago, whatever was 100% of my traffic to my website, it's been crashed by 95%. That's stunning to me. Mostly Google has done it, but other actors as well. What's happening on a global basis, there's a war against free speech. It's not just an incidental thing, oh, we just want to shut somebody up. That's not it. This is an orchestrated, top-down war against free speech. All the things you have coming out of Worldview Tube and Weekend, etc., All of these things are expression of free speech. And I can dare say that their traffic has been hammered as well. If they're successful, these masters of tyranny, if these people are successful shutting down free speech, we're all dead at that point, basically, because that's where the killing is going to start. This is what's on the chopping block right now. The reason you look at this organization just as because you could get something out of it, right? You should look at this organization as an organization that needs to support just to keep free speech alive, period. Who are you going to turn to at this point if this voice was silenced? Where would you go? Newsmax? Give me a break. No. Fox News? No. So I want to encourage you, support the foundation, support Brandon's work here any way that you can.
This is our new NutraSwish, Numi NutraSwish. You can find more information at neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS, one of the products we offer because you all have different preferences and respond differently to different items. So this is our lavender. It's for ladies anywhere along your journey. No hormones in it, but if you're taking a supplement of hormonal supplement, you might want to check with your doctor. The blue is for anyone over the age of 18. It has glutathione, which is a antioxidant, helps with over 400 cellular functions, and it helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those terms we learned after 2020, and it helps detox glyphosate. The good glutathione helps detox glyphosate. Glyphosate is found in ag chemicals or lawn chemicals, and some are very concerned about possible links to cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. But the blue bottle, the glutathione, helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, and glyphosate. Then there's the mango-colored bottle you see on your screen. Numi Neuro helps with your mind, your memory, and your focus. Now, again, after 2020, we heard something about brain fog, a term we'd not heard before. Whether it's from a virus or a vaccine, many have found relief, a little help, with Numi Neuro, the mango-colored bottle. When used with the blue bottle, it is so positive that the American Brain Council wrote about it and it looked like an endorsement. Though we're told they don't write endorsements, it was simply a positive review of what they saw. You can find more information at neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS for the Tamara Scott Show. Why? Because we want you feeling your best. And when you use that TTSS link, you help us be our best.
All right, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. I am Tamara Scott, the Tamara Scott Show, helping you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. Nick Owens is my guest today. If you see me looking down a lot, I'm taking notes. This is my classroom. And so much good information coming here from Ohio, where they're working on a citizen petition to add a ban to 25 megawatt data centers in their state, adding it to the state constitution. First of that I have heard. But as we've talked, the resistance continues to grow. We talked earlier this, was in March, I think, Festus, Missouri, ousted the city council when they voted in a data center against the will of the people. And I think you're going to see more and more of this. Tom DeWeese, has been on this show, American Policy Center. His AI data center is the cover on the New American Magazine this month. And he said it's the fastest, and I think he's been involved in this. I was interviewing him in the 90s. So he's been involved in this for several decades. He said this is the fastest growing movement, organic movement, quick growing, coming together, as you said, Nick, from all kinds of walks of life, all ages, all different political backgrounds, different socioeconomical backgrounds. People just don't want to have something forced upon them. I think, too, it's the AI surveillance that you mentioned, and we could talk about flock cameras sometimes. I'd love to have you back if you want to talk about that. I think it's also just the farmland and the NDA is in secrecy.
Yeah.
So where would you like to come back?
Well, I'm outside on my patio and it's starting to rain, so if that's good, so that we can have water for the data centers consumption in the state of Ohio. But one of the things I just want to talk about is the coalition that we're building. You know, many polls that I've seen, just regardless of age demographic, about 70% of Americans, or at least Ohioans, support some sort of some sort of moratorium or even a ban. And a lot of the politicians, we had even had an Ohio congressman got some news that he wrote the FBI that the FBI should investigate this because we believe that the Chinese is pushing the pushback to data centers, that they're creating the resistance to data centers, and it's just a joke. I mean, I wish that congressman would in Ohio would come and spend a few hours with me collecting signatures. I wish other people would see this. There's this propaganda that, you know, all this resistance, it must be from China. I've made $0 off this. Frankly, I've volunteered my time to help organize this. I've volunteered my time to help draft the language for the proposed constitutional amendment. We have countless individuals. We have a core group of our group, but then we have dozens, if not hundreds, of volunteers every day collecting signatures, and not a single person is being paid. We're an all volunteer effort, and for these people, including my fellow Republicans, to say that we're Chinese propaganda is disgusting and it's so frustrating. And so I hope that stops. And, you know, and one of the things I truly believe it's politicians of all stripes. But in Ohio, we're an all Republican state, an all Republican Supreme Court, legislature, and the governor. And what 20 years ago was the last time we had a Democrat governor. And we have many Republicans in the state of Ohio that think we're a forever permanent class of Republicans. You know, just the state 20 minutes south of me, across the Ohio River here, Kentucky, they have Governor Beshear, Andy Beshear, who got elected by like a 10-point margin. And that's like an even bigger Trump state than Ohio. So this fact, I know, and it's very common that states will have a Democratic governor and vote overwhelmingly for Republican president or vice versa. And our policymakers and elected leaders in the state of Ohio just think, again, we're going to be forever red. And what puts the Republicans over the limit or over allows them to win statewide office in Ohio is collectively the rural areas, our urban areas of Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus, Toledo, Dayton. They vote Democratic and they voted in large margins, but collectively all our rural areas are the ones that put our statewide elected office holders over the top as Republicans. And where are all these data centers coming? In ruby red areas. You're talking to a Republican who's completely frustrated that our way of life is under attack. And I'm just not an isolated case. All these data center growth is going to where ruby red votes are. And that's the case in Georgia. That's the case in Iowa. That's the case in all these areas, Wisconsin. All this data center explosion growth is going to ruby red Republican areas. And I've told everybody, don't count on our Republicans to be there in November and just take them for granted.
An excellent point. An excellent point. And this is the concern. Our elected officials need to listen. And that's not just at the state level, not just at the congressional level. It is at the city council. It is at the mayoral level, the county supervisors, because that's where a lot of these ordinances have come in. That's where a lot of the moratoriums are now starting. And so that's an excellent point, Nick, on the rule being what often puts these states over the top. We all know whether it's a city, an urban area, college, we fight those areas as far as getting the vote and helping people understand what a nation is, a republic is to be in our nation. So excellent point. And let me just say as well, North Carolina passed a powerful data center law with 78% of voters demanding it. And the Monterey, California one that I mentioned, I think this was the first time they said they'd put something like this on the a referendum. 60,000 people about 10 miles east of downtown Los Angeles placed a measure on Tuesday's ballot asking if and this would have been the primary, so that'd be over a week ago.
They're still counting ballots.
They are in LA, that's for sure. And then 24,000 dropped, and none of them were for Pratt, but we shouldn't think anything about that. But I digress. So in this article from Politico, they said the response so far on this issue has been 86% of votes counted as of Wednesday afternoon. So there you go, are in favor of the proposal. 86%. Boy, I mean, we get to 60%, 65%. That's a mandate. What is this? This is a typhoon.
Well, and I was picking on Republicans for a second, again, which I am one in Ohio, but then, and I know you read the article, there's a great Washington Post article from Sunday that has many quotes from many politicians, and it's very in-depth and talks about the disconnect. We've never seen a disconnect where the people are so clamoring for change and regulations and pushbacks to a certain specific industry or topic, and the politicians of all stripes, of all sides, are ignoring. And for instance, Sherrod Brown, who was beaten by Bernie Moreno 2 years ago, was asked about the data center petition that citizens like myself have created and are circulating throughout our state, and all 12 million citizens all throughout our state. And he said he didn't know anything about it. And so that's been going on for a couple months. We've had a ton of earned media. So either you have your head in the sand and you're completely tone deaf to what's going on, or you're a liar. And it's just sad that our elected officials of all parties just do not see the clamoring for, let's slow this down, let's actually study it, let's actually see what's going on, instead of just frankly using this boogeyman that if we don't do this, we're going to lose to China. We're going to lose to China if we don't do this. If you don't have a data center 5 feet from your backyard and have to hear the hum and deplete your water resources and suck your well dry and suck your aquifers dry, we're going to lose to China. So it's either, and it's just it's a boogeyman argument that I think just doesn't hold up. And ultimately, anything that polls at 70% or higher about people having a pushback, politicians need to wake up. What issue do Americans agree at 70%? And I always have faith in Americans collectively.
So, to your points, there's just so much here. There's so much here. 78%, 86%, 77%. They have got to wake up. They have got to listen, or we are going to be in trouble. And so my thanks to all of you who are working on this in Ohio. Thank you to the great work that you're doing on this. And I think as well, okay, you mentioned China. We hear this. You're right. It's a boogeyman argument because, as we told our viewers, you can go to Visual Capitalist, I think it is, Visual Capitalist or Visual Capitalism, and they're tracking states with the most data centers, states now restricting data centers, countries with the most data centers, and they rank them. And guess what? America is ahead of China, like by 4 countries. They have apparently 400. We have 4,000. They're apparently going up, which I've said on this show. I don't understand why it has to be our prime farmland. Why don't we go to the inner city where it needs refurbished? Why don't we go in the inner city where there's concrete anyway and build up? Why do we go on our vast and best farmland in the Midwest? So this argument about China, they have 400. We have 4,000 and counting. We've already won that war, if that's truly what it's about. But what's the difference in winning the war if you become them? Because these data centers, I'm not even sure, Nick, do they store the data or do they store the equipment that processes the data? And that's what the cooling is. Either way, we know it foments the surveillance, as you said.
Oh, we're creating a surveillance state. I don't want, I certainly watch Fox News, but I don't watch it often. But recently, when the president was over in China, Brett Baer did a little segment about how his driver had gotten a speeding ticket, or not, a parking ticket. I don't know if you saw the segment. Got a parking ticket. Within 5 minutes, the person got a text on their phone that that they had gotten a parking ticket and that they owed, $50 or whatever. how did they know that person's cell phone number? How did they know who that car connected to? The surveillance and the connectedness of society is just like we're losing our ethos as Americans with regards to the surveillance state, and frankly, it's turning the Fourth Amendment upside down. And as we saw during the Biden years, and again, somewhat through the Obama, Bush, every presidency, as I mentioned earlier, is the Fourth Amendment is frankly just thrown out the window when it comes to all this data is collected by private entities, and there's no, they don't even ask for get a warrant to get it. The government calls and says we want your data, and then somewhere in some form, because if you want to use social media, or if you want to use your phone, or if you want to buy an Apple iPhone, Apple actually is probably one of the better Fourth Amendment protective devices, but most of these places they bury it in the thing. Well, we can give your data away because if you want to use our product, we got to give it away. And what other choice do you have? It's like that credit card, what you want to sign up for, that thing you sign up for online. Do you really have a choice to say no?
Right, right. You can read their agreement, terms of agreement, that you won't participate if you don't just say yes. All right, so we've got to go to our last break, and then I've got till 55. We've got to be done at 55. Now, Nick, you are welcome to stay if you can. We can get to an action item of what you can tell people how they can help in their states.
Yeah, I'm good to stay.
Excellent. Very good. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned.
3 years ago, the United States was stunned by an announcement from war-torn Korea. U.S. Army Private David Hawkins and 20 other prisoners of the communists had become turncoats. They had renounced their own country and disappeared behind Red China's bamboo curtain.
What had you heard? Well, only what our Chinese captors had told us, how great they were working toward socialism and the great strides that they were taking, bettering the life of the Chinese people who for so many thousands of years had lived a life of oppression under various governments.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, and as you know, we offer you a variety of products on this show. This is the Frequence.com. Frequence.com, this is trace minerals, because even if you're growing your vegetables, sometimes the soil may not even have the minerals that we used to think were there. So this is just one more way to add. Now, we offer you a variety of products on the show, not that we expect you to take them all, buy them all, but you all have different preferences. Your bodies respond differently to different ingredients, and you have different ways you might like to get your nutrients. So among the Bella Grace we talked about, and the Nutra Swish we talked about, here is the Frequence. You saw it on the screen right there. There are other products there. We're not saying we're not recommending all of them for you or saying you purchase all of them. We just want you to be the best and help you find out what helps you be your best. And this is one way you can do it. And this one I hadn't tried. Some of our guests, my guests tried it before I did, and they actually loved it, which then I ordered it, and now I do too. There's the rosemary oil that I also appreciate, and there's some rye and some other things you can put in your drinks that help you with mind clarity and other situations and other remedies for other ailments. How's that? So we'll be right back here. We're talking to Nick. We're talking about the data centers. Ohio has a petition, a citizen petition, to ban 25 megawatt or larger data centers in Ohio. This is the first I've read of a state doing this. I believe, was it Idaho just passed something as well on data
New York,
centers?
the New York legislature, it's awaiting the governor's action whether or not there will be a moratorium. So Maine had one. Their legislature voted a moratorium. The governor vetoed it over one community, she said. And then New York has. It's going to be interesting because even the Democrats are beholden by the labor unions, just as Republicans are by big tech. And so it'll be interesting as this works its way, as they like to say, the laboratories of democracy throughout our states.
I can't imagine the labor unions are too fond of these because of the jobs that will likely be lost. We hear
They
because
love them. They love them. They're testifying yesterday. I mean, they love them because it's all the employment, it's short-term employment, but it's all the
Gotcha.
tradesmen. They need all the electricians. They need all the steel workers. They need all the demolition or well, not excavation. I mean, it's all the trades
for a
because they're
short time.
building.
For
Yeah.
a short time, for the building, and then it's over. Because I had a supervisor call me and say, we've been promised 100 jobs at $100,000. I don't think so. Not
That's
after.
the permanent jobs. And frankly, what I say, like our project in Ohio or near me, the one near me, they're all over Ohio, but the one near me they're saying 50 jobs and around 100,000. But in reality, the ones that our community actually will benefit are not the high paying jobs because our community doesn't have that skill set. And so what we'll end up doing is having the maintenance workers or the security guard workers or the people that do the cleaning. We're not going to get the actual high power jobs or the high dollar jobs because we don't have the skill set for it. And that can be a conversation for another day, but frankly, it just doesn't benefit. But if I
And then you
may,
bring those people in, which would be fine, I guess, depending on where they're coming from and how they change your political landscape and your culture. But two, even if they are coming from a family of custodians, and this is not a comment on any of those workers in any way, that's an honorable way to earn a dollar, but it's just not the high paying jobs that they're promising. That's the point that we're making.
it's not sustainable for the community. You can't build a surviving and a sustainable community over a bunch of jobs that don't are just frankly, again, it's honorable work, but a community can't be built on security or maintenance or low dollar cleaning jobs. It's just not like it's just not sustainable.
Okay, to your point, you were going to make another.
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody we're lucky in the state of Ohio. We're only one of 17 states that have the direct democracy route for a constitutional convention or a constitutional amendment. We've had that right since 1912. It was actually Teddy Roosevelt that came to Ohio Constitutional Convention and pressed for that when he was running as the Bull Moose candidate against another Ohioan at that time, William Howard Taft. But of course, they both lost. And so we are very lucky to have that route. And frankly, if more than just 17 states had that, I think you would see more citizens rising up. One of the things I've said before is myself, a rural lawyer, and another counterpart, Austin Bowrichter, we both drafted the language and had our army of volunteers and leaders. And you talked about Jessica Baker earlier. She was one of our initial people to get we had to get a certain amount of signatures to get to the Attorney General's office to get the language approved for the next step, which we did. But it's crazy that two rural lawyers in Ohio are the ones coming up with this language. It's just but I guess that's the essence of what a direct democracy route is when there's so much clamor about an issue that's being ignored by policymakers, and in this case, the legislature, then the citizens have a right to do that. So in Ohio, we have to collect 413,000 signatures. It's 10% of the last gubernatorial election, which is in 2022. We have until July 1st to get those, to get on the ballot this year. If we don't get the signatures on the ballot this year, then we can have it on the ballot for next year. It's a pretty tough task to get all the signatures by July 1st because we just started circulating our petition beyond the procedural steps when we had to get to the Attorney General. But the actual petition that we're getting before voters is only started circulating on April 3rd. We're doing an amazing job with an all-volunteer effort, but it's going to be a challenge by July 1st. But with that being said, we have all summer long, and we're going to continue to work on this. At the pace we're at right now, we'll easily get on the ballot for next year. And voters in Ohio will have a say, and will continue to be a part of the conversation here in Ohio and nationwide about what are our reasonable limits for data centers. And the reason we picked 25 megawatts is we don't want any normal pre-existing business, like I use in the Cincinnati example, like Fifth Third, Kroger, or Procter and Gamble, who have normal IT infrastructural needs, lots of IT infrastructure needs. We've not got any pushback from a normal pre-existing corporation or business that has large data center needs about that not being enough capacity. And those 25 megawatt data centers, there's people out there that want no data centers in general, and we appreciate that. But with that being said, we had to write and draft something that actually could succeed at the ballot. And I believe we need data centers at a certain reasonable size. I'm frustrated that every time I hear about data centers, well, if we don't build data centers, as I mentioned earlier, China will beat us. Well, if it's truly this is about national security, then why in Ohio do we have to share the overburden of building them? Why do states like Texas and Virginia and Georgia and Iowa things have to overshare per capita? Because if it's truly about national security, then everybody should be online about getting these built. But I think it's just an argument. It's anytime you want to push back on something the government's doing, it's China. You got to fight China. You got to fight China. And it just doesn't hold weight.
Nick Owens, thank you for joining us today. Conserveohio.com. Conserveohio.com, and you'll find a proposed amendment there as well if you might like to look at it for language in your state, if you are one of those 17, or in other ways at your legislature, you can make a change. At your city council, we're seeing change. At your counties, we're seeing change. But you are that change. You've got to help bring it to being in many of these states. As we tell you, live boldly, love better, laugh bigger, be encouraged, and never be complacent.